So at this point, you might be wondering, if everything is all part of Achdos Havaya, of God's absolute unity, which is all Shevat, it's all just the same, we're all just literally in God, then how are Torah mitzvahs any different than a table and a chair? I mean, if a table and a chair are within God. So what makes Torah mitzvahs so special, so unique? We will now explore the profound uniqueness of Torah mitzvahs, how they are God's inner will versus the world being God's external will. So at this point, the Alter Rebbe has really tripped us out on God's unity, to the point that we're just like experiencing it. Like everyone who talks to you is part of God's unity. Any chair you sit on is part of God's unity. And so if everything's just like in this unity, it's all in God, we're like, okay, so what do Torah mitzvahs, what's the special flavor of Torah mitzvahs that adds to my life? The Torah and God are totally one. Quote from the Zohar. Another quote from the Zohar. The 248 mitzvahs are the 248 organs, the Malka, of the king. AKA, mitzvahs are a pure and unadulterated expression of God himself. We're going to explore the true significance of these two verses later on in chapter 23. Torah mitzvahs are God's inner will. It's for this purpose that he created the higher and the lower worlds, meaning the world of Atzilus, and Bria, and Yetzirah, and Asiya, all the higher mystical spiritual worlds of angels, all of that was created for the purpose of Torah mitzvahs. And every sea creature and every bit of particle in this world, all of this world was created for the purpose of Torah and mitzvahs, for a Jew to connect to their source, the Makar Chaim, the source of life, God in this world, through this rope God is sending us to attach through, this rope that has 613 strands, which are the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. So when you're driving to a wedding, what's your inner will? Is you want to see the bride, you want to see the groom, you want to take photos, you want to see them under their chuppah, you want to dance with the bride, like your inner will is that you want to get to the wedding. Your external will is that you want to drive. Why? Because you want to get there. So it's really a means to actually get to your inner will. The life energy and flow to all the world is contingent on mitzvah observance in our world. So what we're explaining is that God's chatzonius ratzon, God's external will, is to create klipas and sitra achra, and it's going to make a real world. What do you mean by a world? I mean something that, an arena where we can actually choose God, a place where we can actually have free will. But of course, Hashem's inner will is that we're going to choose Him. Right, that we're actually going to choose to have this authentic relationship that can only take place in a world that actually is concealing godliness. Because if it's just open and revealed godliness, if we're choosing God in the highest world of the Tzilos, there's no choice. Of course we choose Hashem. So all the backdrop of this world is for allow us to make this daily and constant choice of choosing God in our life. Since the whole point of the world is to facilitate Torah and mitzvahs, right, mitzvah literally meaning connection, the world's existence depends on them. In fact, it's through Torah mitzvahs the life energy flows to the world. So if you're getting the image of like a super Jew with a cape in your mind, that's about right, okay? Torah and mitzvahs allow life-giving energy to flow to the world. So it follows that the mitzvah acts, as they are stated in the Torah, and their fulfillment, when the mitzvahs are actually observed, are deep vehicles of expression for God's inner will. Since each of these acts causes the light and life energy from God's will to be dressed in the worlds. Meaning, when you light your Shabbat candles, you are drawing down God's endless light into this physical world. When you take a moment, take a deep breath, and talk to your child kindly, you are drawing God's endless light into this world. When you cook for Shabbos, you're drawing God's endless light into the world. When you put on your tefillin, you are drawing God's endless light into the world. Whenever mitzvah applies to us, whatever that mitzvah of the moment is, and there's always a mitzvah of the moment, that is allowing me to draw down God's endless light to be dressed up into the worlds. We are now going to explain the deeper meaning and deeper understanding of the mitzvahs being the organs of the king, as the Zohar teaches us. Your organs are surrendered to your will. When you want your leg to move, it moves. The life energy enlivening the mitzvahs being performed are completely surrendered to God's innermost will. It is completely in sync with God's essence. The reference to life energy here has a twofold implication. It refers to the energy the person invests performing the mitzvah, right? They're investing their soul garments, they're investing the very energy of their animal soul, and the life energy of the object used to fulfill the mitzvah. Both are completely surrendered to God's will, meaning the life energy enlivening the candles that you're using to do the mitzvah, and the life energy that's flowing through you in that moment of lighting the candles, lighting your Shevat candles. we think about it, there's so many moments of life that are confusion and doubt. Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? When we're doing a mitzvah, we know that we are completely in sync with the essence of all reality. We're in sync with God's will, and not just God's external will, not as a means to an end. We are in sync with God's innermost will, that we will choose Him in this world, and therefore the life energy that is enlivening us in the moment is the most innermost essence, right? It's God's innermost will. Both us, our energy in that moment, and we're infusing that physical object with God's innermost will, right? We're infusing that this thing, this object, this candle is now being used to fulfill God's innermost will, and therefore the energy is enlivening it is this very powerful life energy. So when you're doing a mitzvah today, take a moment and realize the energy that's filling you and the energy that now, due to your choice, is filling the object that you're performing this mitzvah with. We are now exploring together what exactly happens to me when I'm doing a mitzvah. What changes is going on in my own reality when I'm performing a mitzvah? So when performing a mitzvah, your godly soul's garment of action is immersed in the mitzvah act, and therefore surrendered to the divine will, to God's innermost will. And it's surrendered in the way that like a body surrendered to the soul. So to give an analogy of this, right? Let's say a person wants to run. So all they need to do is like their soul's drive is to run, and therefore their body's going to run. It's completely surrendered and given over. You become a divine chariot for the divine will. Now that's boss, okay? Literally, you are so surrendered in that moment to God's innermost will, so just in that place of just receiving His will and performing it in this world, that you literally become a divine chariot for God's will. The patriarchs were generally a chariot to God. Chariot refers to not only surrender of the mind to God, but also of the body. Since all the patriarchs' organs were sacred and detached from these worldly concerns, and throughout all their days, the organs acted as a chariot for the divine will alone. Meaning that our patriarchs, Avram, Sarah, Yitzhak, Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel, and Leah, our patriarchs and matriarchs, our moms and dads there, were 24/7 in chariot. All their organs completely surrendered to God's will. Think about what that means. Their every thought, their every move, their every word, their every action completely given over to God's higher will for them. And remember, giving your inner will doesn't mean that we become personalityless. That allows our true divine personality to shine through. Remember, God's light, infinite light, has an ability to shine through every single person uniquely. When our personality, when our ego is in the way, so I'm just shining like my fire, my water, my earth, my air, my animal soul personality. When I'm surrendered to God's will, then Hashem's infinite light can shine through me, flow through me in a unique way that it can't flow through anyone else. So our personality, even our true divine personality, our individuality, actually expressed in that moment of being surrendered to be its chariot to God's will. And we see all of our imahos and our avos, our patriarchs, our matriarchs, are completely like their own individual, their own person, their own life story, their own journey, but it's their godly soul being expressed throughout their life's journey. Okay, so what is the difference between us being a chariot while doing a mitzvah and the patriarchs? For us, right, so for the avos, for the patriarchs and matriarchs, it was 24/7, completely surrendered. For us, whatever organs are involved in that mitzvah, those organs become a divine chariot at the time that mitzvah is taking place. Since your divine soul's garments of action is invested in those bodily organs, those organs become a chariot, right? So, like, how does that happen? Because the divine garment of action, it can't act on its own. It's just a divine garment. It needs the actual bodily organs. So whatever bodily organs is now like having the energy of the godly soul's divine garment of action is now being enlivened with that mitzvah energy. So to break this down, the hand which distributes charity to the poor. In that moment, the godly soul's garment of action is being clothed within the hand, and that hand is now becoming a markava, a chariot to God's will. Or the feet that walk, right, to do a mitzvah. So those feet are now being enlivened in that special mitzvah energy. They're a chariot. They're completely surrendered over to God's will. Or the brain which contemplates words of Torah, or the reverence of heaven, or the greatness of the blessed God, right? When someone's using their physical brain to trip out on godliness and give themselves experience of love and awe of Hashem, of God, then in that moment their brain is acting as that divine chariot. So this is a fun meditation to do throughout your day. As you're doing a mitzvah, realize which part of my body is involved in this mitzvah, and envision that part of your body in that moment is a divine chariot completely surrendered, given over to God's will, that this part of your body is being enlivened with a special mitzvah energy.